Hey guys, it's George. Thanks for joining me on my channel again. And today we're going to have some fun. So fire up your virtual machine or your whatever you've got. Fire it up and just follow along with me, okay? So last we left off, we were creating directories and creating files, right? So we're going to go back through that and do it again really quick, okay? So just a quick recap, we're logged in as live user at our localhost-live in our home directory right now. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at PWD and just confirm that. There we go. Home/live user. Beautiful. Okay. Now let's do a long list and see what's in here. Just your typical stuff, right? Clear. Oops. I cannot spell today and do not do caps lock. Watch what happens. Nothing. Because Linux is case sensitive. Okay, so here we are. Let's make a directory, mkdir. We're going to call it bands. We're going to long list to make sure it's there. You see it right there. It says bands right here. Let's cd into that bad boy, bands, and LL, and just, there's nothing in there, okay? So we haven't created anything. So let's VI, and we're going to do Metallica. Remember, VI makes, then you got files, and then you got to do escape I for insert, and James, I should use proper grammar, James, Kirk, Lars, Jason Newstead. Okay, cool. Escape, colon, WQ, exclamation, bam. My face was in the way of that, isn't it? Let me move that over. There we go. Okay. Cool. So let's just take a quick look. There it is. There's Metallica. You can see there's some data in there, and it was just created today. Beautiful. Okay. Now, next thing, let's do another band. Let's VI, and we're going to call this one, I don't know. We're going to call this one the Misfits. All right. And escape I, Glenn, Jerry, Doyle, Robo. So the guys in the Misfits, all right? You guys got that? Pause if you have to and just follow along and create this with me. Okay, escape key, colon, WQ, exclamation, enter. Let's take a look. We have two files. Wonderful. We created a directory. Let's go back here to our home. We created a directory called bands, right, by mkdir, and then we cd'd inside of bands, LL, and we see the two files that we created. We cat to take a look at the content, and it will go ahead and give it to us right here. Let's also cat misfits. There they are. Beautiful. Next thing we're going to learn right now is how to add a user. Okay, we're going to add a user. We're going to say that, who is a popular figure, rock and roll figure? Axl Rose, okay? User add is the command. Pretty intuitive. User add, space. We're going to say A Rose, just like that. And we're going to click enter. Oh, permission denied. Why? Because we're logged in as live user, not root. But you can elevate live user to the permission of root, the all-encompassing, powerful file manager system user. To do that, super user, SUDO. Super users do all kinds of cool stuff. So SUDO, sudo, space, and then user add a rows. Now let's click enter. All right. Usually that's a good sign in Linux when nothing shows up, right? How do we check that? We're going to look in a file. We're going to cat space, and we're going to start diving into important files, directories here. Root etc /passwd. Okay, this is where you can confirm users. All right, here's live user. There isn't a number attached to this live user. Excuse me, 1000 is the, I guess, identity, the number for the live user, and his group is 1000 also. And this is where his home directory is. So this confirms that A rows was created. His Linux ID is 1002. His group ID 1002. His home directory, home/A rows. Okay, now A rows needs a password, right? So let's do sudo super user do to upgrade our root privileges. And let's go passwd. And let's put A rows because that's who we're adding a password for, right? Okay, so new password. Keep it simple, something that you're going to remember. I'm just going to use password. It's not a good security measure, but we're in a lab. All right, enter. It says bad password, no kidding, but we're using it anyway. Boom. All right, now we can do something else. Let's cat space etc, and let's look at the shadow file. Oh, why isn't that showing? Oh, we got a sudo, permission denied. Now let's cd into etc shadow. It's a file. I am all over the place. Sudo, we're going to cat because we're reading a file. Okay, you can't change directory into a file. Etc shadow. Couple things here. You can see all the errors I made, right? Number one, if you're looking to something sensitive that has a permission that the permissions are set to where a regular user can't see, you're going to get denied, right? So you need to get into root privilege. You use sudo for that, okay? Then you got to put the proper command in. etc/shadow is it's a system file. You can't cd or change directory into a file. It doesn't even make any sense. So you have to cat to look at it. So there it is. You can see down here, A rows is the username, and all this encrypted information is that this isn't the password. It's just encrypted. This is an indicator to you that indeed they have a password and what you put in probably works. So that was a lot of information. I wanted to do it on purpose to teach you a couple lessons. Number one, to review how to make a directory, how to create a file, add contents to it. We also used cat to review the file or to look at what's inside the file. We also learned two pretty good concepts. Number one, that when you are trying to access a file or directory even, or place a command that requires elevated permissions, you need a sudo, super user do, SUDO, space, command, space, and then the file or directory you're going to, right? The other concept that we learned here is that you change directory into a directory, not a file. If something's a file, you have to cat it to look at it. And again, if it's a file or directory that has permissions, elevated permission, or restrictive permissions rather, you need to use sudo to get into there. So I would go back, review the video, pause where you need to, and play around with all this stuff, okay? So what I do is I clear. I'm back to the beginning, right? Remember cd ... gets me back to my home directory, and I kind of review what I did. LL, long list, there's bands. I'm going to cd into bands, right? I didn't have to sudo into it because, as you can see here, the permissions, which we're going to get into later, the permissions are pretty good. They're pretty open, right? Now, once we're in bands, we're going to LL to look inside. We see Metallica and Misfits. Let's do a deeper dive into that. Is CD Metallica going to work? No, because it's not a directory, but cat will. There, beautiful. Okay, and then we created a user by using the user add and then placing the name, right, and a password, and we confirmed all this by catting, not CDing, into Etsy. Etsy shadow is where you can see. What did I do wrong? That is a protected file. I have to sudo to look at it. This shows you, well, number one, the name is there, right? So you know the user has been added. But this also shows you the password that you created, an encrypted version of it, which for you is an indicator that it was created indeed. So I hope all this helped. Practice, play around with this stuff, right? We'll add more users next time, and we'll just have a blast. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments.